How's it going, guys? This is lesson 2 in second year science and week 1 of our school closure. So from January 11th to January 15th. Okay, so we're going to go back to the OneNote. And we're sticking for this class with our learning outcome that we started on Tuesday. So we're sticking with Earth and Space 5, which is all about the cycles of matter. And the two that we're focusing on, because they're the two that's listed in the learning outcome, are these two here. So the carbon cycle and the water cycle, right? So the last day we looked through the water cycle, and we had a chat about how the water cycle works and what happens to it on the way back to the sea, and how we can use it for industry and for houses, and then of course how we have to clean it before it goes back into the sea, and so on, the benefits. And you may have watched the video, and we did the same with the carbon cycle. And then we kind of linked that then with what's the problem then? Why is all this getting messed up? Why is the carbon cycle kind of shifted in one direction, where we're producing too much carbon going into the atmosphere, and we're not planting enough trees and having enough photosynthesis taking place in order for that carbon to be taken back out, and what problems that's causing. So that's where we link it to, which we'll do next week, to greenhouse gases and global warming and climate change and the heating up of the atmosphere and so on and so forth. And you had another nice video down here about the carbon cycle. Okay, so what I asked you to do was, I asked you to try the questions below. So you could put them into your homework, and I see that the vast majority, I think only 2 or 3 of you haven't managed to do that yet, but I'm sure you will over the next 48 hours. And that's your only homework task. So your only homework task for this week is to do those questions. And more importantly, when it comes to exams, you're going to want to have these two cycles drawn out and annotated by yourself. That's what I asked you to do. And over here, I have a couple of examples of people's copies. I've taken this from their own homework section. So this person here has drawn the water cycle out, labeled it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then given the corresponding what's happening at each point. So that's there for you to take a look at, and it's just a nice example. But going through the homework there last night and this morning, there's lots of really good examples, and that'll be a really, really nice thing for you to have. And because it's now in your homework section, if the notes copy gets wet or you spill something on it, well then that'll always be there for you with the notes, with the questions. You're going to have that in the homework section of this OneNote. So that's why I suggest put as much in there as you can. Label the section in the homework part and put the different homeworks in, so it'll always be there for you. The same person has done a great job there with the carbon cycle. So that's really clear, really nice to have when it comes down to this time next year, and we're thinking about things like mocks and that. There's a really quick revision in your own handwriting and your own diagram for you to take a look at. The other one I think I asked you to do was these questions down here. So go through these questions here, and here is a nice example then of those questions being done as well. So we think of a couple of them, 3 examples of how water vapor is added to the atmosphere. So how do you get water up into the atmosphere? So this person wrote heat from the sun, yes, evaporation, transpiration, and snow and ice melting and evaporating into the air. So there's a lot of ways that water can get up into the air. What happens to water vapor as it rises higher into the atmosphere? So what happens to it as it goes up? And as it goes up higher into the atmosphere, this person wrote, it begins to condense, and it does. It turns from a gas into water vapor, into water droplets, and then can start falling as rain and so on and so forth. So most of these questions are very self-explanatory, and I had a look, and I think nearly everyone got every single question right. So there was nothing massively complicated in that, but we can do a correction on those next week. The one question that was causing a small problem for people was this one here, this word here, desalination. So desalination is basically a fancy word for, so D, take it out, salt, take out the salt. So how do you get how do you get salt out of water? So you can think what a desalination plant is used for. Well, a desalination plant is used to take water out of salt or salt out of water. But the disadvantages of having to rely on a desalination plant for fresh water is that plants are notoriously slow at doing anything. So if you're waiting for plants to desalinate your water for you, well, you're going to be waiting a while. So it's they're your main disadvantages of that. So I suppose you're not going to get much water and it's going to take a long time. Okay, and the rest were fairly really self-explanatory. But if you're not sure of any of the answers to those questions, you can stick a post up and we will go through them. But I think nearly everyone, I think I looked at 21 sets of questions and no one had any of them wrong, bar the desalination one. So make sure you have that in your homework copy. So there's two things I want you to have. One is the carbon and water cycle, and the second one is the answers to the questions over here. Okay, there are two things I want. There's one more thing, and really there's no new content today in today's lesson. I think we've kind of completed the learning outcome within these questions, but I've just added a few more bits and pieces in and given you a few more questions. So what you're going to do is you're going to spend the rest of the lesson as such. So you're going to go over the two cycles again. I want you to, as opposed to, we've gone through it, we've drawn them, but I want you to review them. I want you to go through them. And I want you to try and learn the two cycles. A great way of doing that is to read through your homework. So read through the carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, grab an A4 page out and try and draw them without the page. So it's a great way of trying to see, well, how much do I actually know? If I was given this in an exam, could I do it again? The second thing I want you to do for the rest of the hour, and again, it's not homework, because you're going to do it as part of this lesson. This morning, I want you to go down here, and there's a lot of questions, exam style questions. So these are questions on the water cycle and the carbon cycle. So what's matter? Two compounds that contain carbon. Process moving carbon around, and there's a good few questions there. There's a bit of work on the carbon cycle. They're all really short answer ones. Each one takes a couple of seconds for you to do. There's work there on the water cycle, and that's it. So it kind of takes you through every possible question they could possibly throw at us in and around the carbon cycle and the nitrogen cycle. And what I've done here, so you're wondering what's all this stuff here, is just another summarized version of the carbon cycle and how you convert carbon. It's just a different diagram. That's all it is. So it's the same thing again. It's just a more summarized version. And then again, I have the same for the water cycle. So another water cycle there. So basically, you have a set of notes up the top, and you have another kind of smaller condensed set of notes here. So that's what I want you to do. So for the rest of the lesson, you're going to revisit your carbon cycle, revisit your water cycle, and see how much of it you know by redrawing it out, and then go down to the bottom, and you're going to do these questions here. So some exam style questions on the water cycle and on the carbon cycle, and I've put the tasks here for you to do. So first, review the carbon cycles. Then you've no homework today, but make sure that the people who haven't uploaded Tuesday's task, so annotated carbon and water cycle, and the solutions to the questions above, okay? So the ones from Tuesday. That should be in the homework section of your OneNote. The rest of the time now, for the next 45, 50 minutes, you're going to answer the questions below. And when you have them done by the end of the class today, also upload those to the homework section of your OneNote. And if you manage to get that done today, that completely, and maybe over the top even, completes this learning outcome. And this is about, it's a good chunk of the Earth and Space chapter. And a separate learning outcome we're going to start on Tuesday is on greenhouse gases, global warming. And next week we're going to tick that one off as well. Okay, I hope that's okay. I'm going to post this now, and you can tap away at it this morning. And I'm also going to post asking you for some feedback on what you think of the videos. Would you rather live? Would you rather a mix? Would you rather, or are you happy with the videos here? So if you could answer that would be helpful in planning for next week. But So tap away at those questions. Make sure the carbon nitrogen cycle and the two sets of questions by the end of tomorrow are uploaded to the homework section of your OneNote. And next week we'll go ahead with the next thing: greenhouse gases, climate change, and so on and so forth. Okay, have a lovely weekend, guys, and I'll talk to you next week.